Hey, what's going on everyone? Dennis here, EDC for Fun. Thanks for checking out the video. Today we're going to take a look at this sweet little knife from Miguron. This is the Miguron, and it is the crossbar lock version. So I picked this guy up for about 30 bucks on Blade Binge. Normally they go for about 50 bucks new. You can get them on different retail sites as well as Amazon. And I picked this one up, like I said, from Blade Binge. It was used, so I got it for almost half price, which was pretty sick. If you're not familiar with Blade Binge, they used to go by NAF sale, and it's basically a host for secondary sales. They also do some retail stuff, but primarily it's a place where you can buy and sell used knives, and I've picked up a bunch of stuff there. I've sold some stuff there as well. It's a great site. I'm not affiliated with them, but it's definitely worth checking them out. There's usually a lot of cool stuff on there. So moving on, I'm going to tell you about some things that I like about this knife, some things that I don't like, and my overall experience using this guy for EDC. So starting things off, what I do like is the green micarta, and this is canvas micarta. It does have a nice texture to it. It's not like fluffy or anything like that, but it's definitely not smooth. So it does give you a very nice grip in hand, especially if your hands are sweaty or get a little bit wet. Which I experienced, doing food prep and stuff like that. The handle's getting wet and still providing very adequate grip. So I definitely like the green micarta. I'm also kind of a sucker for green micarta anyway. So when I saw this one, it was kind of a no-brainer, especially at the price. The next thing I like is the blade shape. It's a very useful drop point blade with a big belly on it. Very tall flat grind. It's not a full flat grind. You can see where the opening hole is here. The grind does stop there, but it doesn't stop it from being very slicey. It's not the thinnest blade stock in the world, but it is adequate for EDC. It definitely passes through materials easily, and I am a fan of the drop point shape. It's not my favorite, but it's very useful, very practical. The next thing I like is the opening hole. It's a very useful design. It's not too big, not too small, and it does have a very nice chamfer all the way around. So it is very easy to deploy, whether you're thumb flicking or whether you're reverse flicking. One thing you do have to watch out for when reverse flicking, the way this crossbar lock sticks out there, if you reverse flick, your finger might land on there depending on how you're holding the knife, and if it does that, it's going to stop it from opening. So just something to be mindful of, but it is very fun to deploy, and the hole is excellent. It's a very good design on that. Next up that I like, the titanium pocket clip. That's a really, really nice touch, especially at 50 bucks new. Of course, for me, 30 bucks used, and I get a titanium clip. I mean, sometimes these clips run $20 to $30 just by themselves, so that's pretty sick. It's not deep carry. It does leave a lot out of the pocket, but I'm not super worried about that. After carrying it for about a week, it's got excellent retention on there. And it actually gives you a nice purchase when you're, pulling it in and out of your pocket. But other than that, it's a very nice looking, very functional, very well-made clip. So that's pretty sick. While I've got it angled like that, you can kind of see on the inside, we do have some milling. So I like that. This knife only weighs 3.2 ounces. So not super lightweight, but definitely not a tank either. So you can see that weight relief inside there. So I definitely like that. I also like the back spacer here. I do wish that they used the same micarta to do it. Instead, you've got black, what looks like G10, which is fine. Green and black, they go well together. But they did the same thing, by the way, with this not sure why I opened that, I guess just because it's fun. This is the Miguron Carix, but you can see they also have a black backspacer here on these blue micarta scales. So for whatever reason, Miguron is going that route. I think it is a little bit of a miss not to match the backspacer with the same micarta that they're using for the scales. But anyway, since I'm talking about the scales again, I do like the chamfering that goes all the way around. I wish the scales were contoured, but not being contoured, having these this chamfering all the way around does aid in the comfort when you're holding this guy. So very glad that they went ahead and did that. Next thing that I really like is going to be the hardware. So we've got T8 hardware on the pivot, the body screws, the clip, everything is T8. So that's awesome. I did notice when I took this guy apart, one of the screws, this one back here, is very shallow, and I have a hard time getting the tool to grab it, but that's the only one. If that was a T6, it would strip out. There's no doubt about it. But being T8, even if it's not cut deep enough, I can still get enough purchase on there with the T8 to go ahead and torque it without stripping it out. Like I said, if it was a T6, there's no doubt it would absolutely strip out. So I'm glad they went T8 all the way around. I do like the Miguron pivot logo. That looks really sweet. I also like the way they did the pivot in general. Basically, it's not, it is a captive pivot, but it's not D-shaped. It basically has a shelf on the back side of the pivot that matches up with a step in the milling of the pivot hole there. So basically there's only one way that pivot goes in, and once you have it locked in, it's stuck there. It's not moving. So the M will always be pointed that way. It's not going to spin on you, and you don't have tooling on this side. So you don't have to do the double bit driver thing. So I definitely like the captive pivot, and the way they did the shelf step in there is a really nice touch. Okay, so we're going to talk about some things that I don't like. I actually don't like the crossbar lock. In general, I'm not a big crossbar lock fan. Yes, it's fun and fidgety and easy to deploy and ambidextrous. But with this knife, first of all, they didn't reverse the pocket clip. That is right hand tip up only. So you've got an ambidextrous locking mechanism, but a clip that only goes on one side. Kind of a miss. But for me, the bigger deal is I think the spring tension is not strong enough. Basically, this guy has no detent. It fails the gravity test. You can easily flick it out. It's not a deal breaker, but just be mindful. This guy does bounce around in there a little bit. So the other thing that makes that a negative is sometimes when you're deploying it, if you're not paying attention, it will fail. And so that is both, on the reverse flick as well as the thumb flick. If you're not hitting that opening hole just right, with just enough force, it's going to fail on you because there is no detent. The springs that are in here are just not strong enough. I did try swapping them with, this is an O-knife for Batu. These don't have the strongest springs in the world, but taking the springs out of here and putting them in here did make a little bit of a difference, but I didn't keep them there. I did, put them back in the Robatu. So this guy, again, it's got a little... It's definitely on the lighter side, but it's got a little more retention, with these springs here. So I haven't looked into buying aftermarket springs, but I'm pretty sure, you can get them all over the place. I recently reviewed the, the Kershaw Bel Air, and I got that knife from Lefty EDC, and he had put springs in there that were from, it was either Kaiser or Kunwu, but he put aftermarket springs in there. And so for whatever it's worth, you can, if you're not a fan of the spring tension and you just can't sleep at night knowing that it's not enough, obviously either don't buy the knife, or if you do, just know that there are aftermarket options that you can pop in there. And to be honest, changing them, I know some people have a lot of grief working on crossbar access style locks, but it's actually not that bad. I'll go ahead and show you real quick at the risk of making this video too long. Just pop this guy open real quick and show you what it looks like on the inside. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take the pivot out, and I'm going to take the body screws on the show side out, and we'll just look at one side so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to pop this pivot here. All right, now I can pull this scale off. Try not to lose the blade and the bearings in there. So here we have the inner workings, so to speak, and you get a good look at that milling I was telling you about earlier to save weight on this guy, which is really cool. But here's your Omega spring, and it's pretty simple. Basically, there's a little spot here where you can drop this spring in, and then it's got a loop here that goes on the crossbar lock. So that's all it is. You can definitely get aftermarket versions of this with various tensions or whatever. Like I said, I would go stronger if you can, because I think it's just too light. So anyway, yeah, it pops out like that, and then you just pop it back on like that. And see, we'll get the scales in here. You can see that milling in there looks really cool for the pocket for the Omega spring. Just pop that guy back on right there. And here's the back side of the pivot, so you can see that. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it. You can see that shelf that I was talking about that's on the back side of the pivot, and the corresponding step there in the scale, and that makes that a captive pivot. So very cool design. I like seeing that. So go ahead and get this guy hopefully back in straight. Yep. And that's sitting flush, so we know we're in all the way. I'll go ahead and tighten that down first before I do anything else. So while I'm finishing this up here, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you feel led, please share the video. That certainly helps the algorithm, and I really appreciate all the engagement and interaction that you guys can offer. So thank you ahead of time for that. And let's just make sure that we've got everything good to go here. We are rock solid. Action is back in order. Yeah, so pretty simple to do that. Like I said, I know it gives some people some grief to work with the Axis style locks, but I think this is about as simple as it gets. So I definitely appreciate the simplicity in construction there. So that is, like I said, going back to the spring tension, definitely a negative. Another negative, I was kind of surprised that I was thinking this, but usually I like this this groove up here, that a lot of people call a finger choil. But I don't like it on this knife. I've been using this a ton for food processing, and I'm holding this knife for the most part choked back or in a normal grip like this, and I am not using that space at all. I really wish I had more cutting edge there, because I can get another half inch almost of cutting edge. And I noticed, when I was slicing up, potatoes and onions and veggies and whatnot, it just, sometimes it wasn't passing all the way through if I had, like a large potato or a large onion. So I had to kind of just do a double cut. Not the end of the world, but definitely annoying. If I'm not using that space, I'd rather have, just more cutting edge. And the way they have this scallop here, I think it's perfect. I don't think you need that up there. So, a matter of preference or opinion or whatever, but, I definitely something I noticed in use was that I really didn't use that space at all. I really like this grip back here. And so kind of a negative. The other thing, okay, so I'm kind of torn on this. It's got 14C28N blade steel, so it's very well known for its corrosion resistance, yada, yada, yada. But it just scratches so freaking easy. I've just noticed with virtually every 14C blade that I've had, assuming it wasn't DLC coated, I'm not sure how well the camera is going to pick up all the scratches. Let's see if I can get it without reflection. Zoom in a little bit here. Yeah, so you got a ton of scratches down here. If you see up at the tip, we've got all this mess up here. It even has a little bit of staining, if you can kind of see it right there. I don't know if that's from, it's probably from the food, but it's not like I didn't wipe this guy off every time I used it. I certainly did. Zoom back out here. So yeah, I mean, after I used it, I would, rinse it off. In some instances, actually clean it with some dish soap and, shake it out, dry it off. And yeah, like I have that little stain spot there, but like I said, I've got all these little scratches in it, which I don't really care about. But I know a lot of people do care about that kind of stuff, and it's not like the best belt satin on this guy. So I think a stonewash finish would have actually been much better, especially for what I'm going to consider, this is a $50 knife. It's kind of a beater. This is, just something that is just going to see a lot of use. Something that you would have in your rotation to basically relieve some of your knives that maybe you don't necessarily want to get all marred up. So like I said, I don't really care about the scratches, but I know there's a lot of people who do care about that. And 14C, like I said, I've just noticed it just scratches so easily. Other steel scratch as well, but I don't know what it is. In my experience, I just seem to notice a lot more with 14C. But overall, I think this is a really good knife. It's very comfortable. It is very fidgety and fun to deploy. It is very pocketable, and it's got a great blade shape, and it's just an excellent cutting tool. It's not, the best knife, my favorite knife, or anything like that by any stretch of the imagination, but it's freaking solid. It looks cool. It's got, pretty decent materials, and it doesn't break the bank. So I think it is, a very good option for EDC. It's very comparable to, here's the Miguron Carrix, which I showed you earlier, about the same price for this guy. Similar materials, micarta, 14C, but, different blade shape. Me personally, I kind of like something more like this. I prefer the liner lock. I don't mind this flipper here. I love this blade shape. As, useful as the drop point is, I'm definitely more of a sheep's foot guy. But for the price, it's great. Here it is again next to the O-Knife Batu. This guy is, I think, around 80 bucks. This is 50 bucks. They're both crossbar. They both have micarta. This one does have 154 cm steel versus the 14C. I would take 154 over 14C every day of the week and twice on Sundays. Let's see. While we're doing comparisons, just go ahead and knock out these. So I've got the Para 2 here, the PM2 rather, and you can see it's definitely smaller than that, and next to the Para 3, it is a little bit bigger than the Para 3. So it's a medium knife. It's on the smaller side of medium. Very, like I said, very pocket friendly, and just overall very good. So if you already have this knife, let me know what your thoughts are on it. If you're thinking about picking this up, let me know if you have any questions or concerns or anything like that. Like I said, I've got some use with it, and for the most part, I like it. It's not without its quirks. Like I said, the crossbar lock is not my favorite, especially with the weak spring tension, but the opening hole is almost perfect. The blade shape is very useful. The steel's okay. The micarta is nice. Titanium clip is awesome. T8's all the way around, and just an overall, good, comfortable shape, usable knife for EDC. So with that, guys, I want to thank you for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, do all the YouTube things. I really appreciate it. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic day. God bless you guys. See ya.